Oh my god. All right, y'all. We're back. My bad. That's on me. Nice. I gotta get my PC looked at. I'm gonna take it into the shop. Okay, where the hell were we even? Okay. We were discussing OKC stuff. But yeah. Essentially Storm
Yes,
found the
the thing,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah, the mutant. He reminded me of was it Nitro? Was the guy back in the day for Civil War, I thought. Where he was like blowing up. So his kid's essentially like a nuclear bomb that goes off like every like minute or 2 minutes. And Storm and her saving that kid, she got poisoned by radiation, and she's essentially dying of harsh radiation poisoning through like 3 or 4 issues of the story. Uh, how did you feel about like that being like the central plot so far of the story? Like how did that feel for you?
Well, I knew that what they were trying to do was have her die because it's literally the very first few lines of the book. And so, and then when Eternity popped up, I was like, okay, so we're gonna have Eternal Storm or something. So I was like, that's interesting. So her dying from the radiation, I was like, okay, but it's not regular radiation. It was radiation that had to be healed by making it because Brother Voodoo couldn't even do it. And I
Which
was
is
like, so like
weird.
what kind of radiation is this? And I that's why I said I felt like Doctor Doom had something to do with this. This I was like, this is so odd because the mutant who she goes to can't do it. So he was referred to Brother Voodoo, but Brother Voodoo can't do it, so he had to make a deal with the spirit. I was like, what kind of radiation is this?
And because I remember Mawaywood talked about like how he was trying to like make it seem that Eternity was the one trying to kill her somehow, some way. Because even in her
Mm-hmm.
going to save the mutant and save those people, like I guess a random piece of wood like stabbed her in the shoulder that was trying to take her
Mm-hmm.
out. So I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense in regards to okay, if the spirit that not spirit, but like the entity that is embodying eternity is trying to kill you, super radiation is able to take you out, I guess. Because I feel like radiation should never like fuck with a mutant for based on like what they are like gene wise, like through their biology.
Yeah, I thought the radiation poisoning part was odd, but I was like, I don't know, we'll see. But when it came to Brother Voodoo and Brother Voodoo's like, "Oh, I can't heal you, but I did make a deal with the spirit." I was like, "What? Why?"
Like he's like, you
But
know
I mean,
what?
I
Deals with the
I thought
devil.
it was interesting. I definitely thought it was interesting. Um and I did feel bad for her because I know she so wanted everybody to like appreciate her as like, the Earth's mightiest mutant and everything. And that conversation that she was having with Tony, where she could have easily lied about the scientists because they were fucking with alien technology that they weren't supposed to be touching anyway. So she could have so easily lied and just made that, what it seemed like already. And then she went with the truth and everybody was pissed off at her. And I'm like, and that directly went on to when she saved those people on the boat and the captain wouldn't even let them give her water.
Yeah. Part of me is like, no, I'm like, bro, we still hating on mutants this far into this world. Like, part of me wants to feel like, oh, that's not realistic. Like, mutants have saved the world so many times over. But then I remember, oh, I'm black. That's how that works. I mean, so that makes a lot
Literally,
more
that's how that
sense.
works.
It's like
Especially now, literally, that's how that works.
and I liked how like in some of the opening scenes of that issue, they showcased like interviews with some of the public, and you saw like the redneck mom talking to her son, and her son's like, "Yeah, they're mutants," or like she's using slurs and all kinds of stuff, and she's acknowledging that they're good mutants, but still using like slurs to address them. I'm like, okay, Muewe has a for somebody that has never been to the states, you have a interesting understanding of like racism and prejudice in America.
Mhm.
That was dope to me. And I think when does the 5th issue come out? Is it next week? Is this Wednesday coming up?
No, I think it's February.
Sure, okay. Because yeah, issue 5's dropped, but again, from what we've been told from Awewa, and again, if you guys want to see that interview, I can probably link it in the description below for Kaori's channel. or you guys, I think I have her channel added in the description, so you can just click on that and then it'll take you to her channel where that should be at. But he's let us know
Yeah,
that issue
it's
7.
it's next month because issue 7 is in April, is April 9th. And he said that he would be very happy to come back after issue 7 to talk again. I
Hey,
said yes,
Liz.
that would be perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get him on. But yeah, so to kind of like switch gears a little bit, because we kind of went through a little chunk of Storm stuff, because I want to sit at some point and kind of like compare and contrast what made these two things dope, because I think it's not coincidental that we got two stories about really important women in regards to comic book history in Storm and Wonder Woman, and they're both being done incredibly well right now. Interesting enough, one being written by a man and one being written by a woman and Kelly Thompson. But I wanted to kind of just like, compare and contrast. That's how coincidental it is. But before we get into that, though, I do want to talk about just the absolute Wonder Woman run in general and your thoughts on it, because we're 4 issues in now.
She is my favorite of the 3. Hers is definitely my favorite, and I think that the rewrite is wonderful for her. And it definitely brings out all like a lot of the characteristics that were missing from like just Wonder Woman in general, with her origin. But it also takes away the one that I feel has like always been important, and that is the sisterhood of the Amazons,
Mm.
because she doesn't have it at all. And I feel like that's just so odd. And I'm like, I wonder if they'll add to that later, because she didn't learn anything about the Amazons except from a book. And she didn't learn that word except reading the word because her mother couldn't tell it to her.
Right.
So, but I really love the story and where it's going. The introduction of Etta Candy and Etta Candy being black, I was like, absolutely yes. Adding Gia in there was also interesting. Her running into Barbara first was also interesting. I'm like, yeah,
So Etta and
I
Gia are
yes.
2 characters I were not familiar with, and I assumed they were like historical Wonder Woman characters. Could you like remind me or people that don't know who those characters are?
I think Gia is an addition. I think Gia is a new addition, but Etta
Mm.
Candy historically is Wonder Woman's best friend. And
Okay.
she starts out as like this white ginger haired woman from the 40s. And when they were rebooted back in 2011 for New 52, she was black. And they've kind of she's remained black. They did kind of alternate her personality with her not being Wonder Woman's best friend to her being, so they've kept her as Wonder Woman's best friend when they did the reboot, thankfully. And then also she dated Barbara Minerva um, before she became Cheetah.
Okay. I fuck with that because we didn't get to see a lot from her, because it felt like that this story they kind of did like a bait and switch in the 4th issue to where that interaction was more so about Gia than Etta.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be down to see where this stuff goes. And part of me, I'm interested to see. I don't know if DC's announced their plans for the future, the absolute stuff, because this is only 5 issues. Like the final issue of this particular story comes out in maybe like a week or some shit. Well, maybe not next week, because this issue just came
I
out like
think it comes
last
out next
Wednesday.
month. I think it comes out it comes out I think it comes out at the end of February, maybe beginning of March. It's 1 or 2. It comes out before what you call it starts Absolute Flash.
Oh yeah, because I forgot we're getting Absolute Flash and a Green Lantern at some point. Um,
Absolute Flash, Absolute Green Lantern, and Absolute Martian Manhunter.
so I'm really hoping that this is something they're planning to do, like a combined universe going forward with this. Because I really enjoy. I know you're not the fan at all of like Batman, and you're not the biggest fan of the Superman run, but I'm thoroughly enjoying all 3 of these absolute renditions.
Pause. Hold on. Because the
Oh, please
Absolute
correct me.
Superman one, I love the Absolute Superman one. Now, I did say I didn't really care about the first issue because they were, when it came to the first issue for all 3 of them,
Hmm.
the Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman focused on Batman and Wonder Woman.
Right.
That one, you didn't see Superman until like almost midway through the book, and he wasn't doing anything. So
Right.
I didn't care about him there. I was like, I don't care. But when it started getting into what happened on Krypton and changing the fact that he was not a baby when he left Krypton, he was 10 and essentially like a genius almost because he wasn't going against he was going against the societal norms of Krypton and all that stuff. When it started getting in there, and then we got the suit from his mom, I was like, oh yeah. I like this one. Absolute Superman, I do like. The Absolute Batman one, after the first issue, I was like, I don't know what's happening, and I didn't like it.
And we
I'm still reading it. I just didn't like
and we'll get into that at some
it.
point. I know I said Ernie said he'll come back on the pod after both of those are finished. So I do want to get like you and Ernie on to have that discussion. Um, but for the Wonder Woman stuff in particular, I'm loving what they've redone with her because to your point, I think they have really improved on a lot of her as a character. And to your point, I think the only thing in agreement I have is the missing of the sisterhood aspect of it because she's not on the mascara, so she's not interacting with a lot of other women outside of her mother, Cersei. But everything else, like this feels like Wonder Woman, like the nurturing aspect of her, the like really similar to Storm. Like she has a nurturing aspect of her. She had like a maternal aspect of her. She has the fierce warrior aspect of her. And in this one, like it's very like shown that she's a leader that can like inspire people in this story that I've seen that's been really dope. Like this has been a very great run in my opinion in regards to how they've looked at her. And even besides all the characteristic stuff, just the badassery that is her. Like her weapons are cooler. Her aesthetic is cooler to me. Like the tattoo, her tattoo on her right arm is fucking sick to me. I love the fact she has the gut sword, the berserk blade,
Yep.
and then the Ghost Rider lasso that she has. Essentially, it's like a penance stare. Is sick to me. Like her entire kit just seems cool, and I'm like, there's a lot of potential in stories you can tell with her going forward.
Absolutely. And then I absolutely love Pegasus. I
Oh, I
love
forgot about
Pegasus so much.
Pegasus.
His little undead Pegasus. I love that. And I really do like that they lean, like I said before, they're leaning into her Greek heritage. So
Mm.
she's in Amazon. Her ass is tall as shit, and you can very much tell that with every person that she's talking to. This issue where she was using her robotic arm after she lost the arm, and she was like, I totally love my arm. However, I would like to have my other arm. So, that's why I need. And then when one thing that had like I saw a few people in the comment section had skipped over when it comes to Etta Candy and Gia was when he came there, she said, "Do you know any witches?" And
Mm.
he came there, and it was like, are you also changing her background to also be a witch? Because the only one who really leaned into the witchcraft was Gia, but like, is Etta also one? Because she was gonna go out and help, but like, what else could you possibly be doing to go outside?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, if she had abilities or if she was just brave in that aspect, because she wrote the note to her sister, let her know, like, "Hey, stay here. I'm gonna go help." I'm like, "What the hell are you gonna do with this fucking kaiju?"
Right. I'm like, what are you gonna do? And so I'm kind of wondering if they changed that as well. I really do like the aspects that they've chosen for her, but I do want to see, if at all, if they're going to continue on with the story and get like, because you've got the people who make up the Justice League at this point, minus Aquaman. So it's like, are you going to do like a combined thing with all of them after this? Is she going to interact with anybody on Themyscira? Because at this point, she hasn't.
Hmm.
And then we also had that warning from Hecate saying, "Oh, you're going to betray me or disobey me to save her." And it's like, what's that? What's
Plus,
that about over
we
there?
know at some point she's destined to do great things just based off the fact that Cersei said she's getting the visions from Hecate of like her future, her like habitually, like for
Mhm.
the rest of her life. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do for this. I'm really excited to see what art style they're gonna like use for the combined story because I peeped that like in this Batman and Superman there's drastically different art styles. Um, so I'm really interested. Like the cover artists I've seen are like, kind of similar, but these three are like very different in the vibe that they're going for. Like this story seems very much so like a not whimsical per se, but like more of a fantasy type of a tale in the way that it's drawn versus the dark and
Definitely
gritty
Greek
nature of the
tragedy.
other two. Yeah. Greek is the best word for it. It does seem like a lot of like Greek art that you would see in like a like some of the art from like the Odyssey and whatnot that you would see. It's gonna be interesting. Can we chill on a car, my boy? Like Jesus Christ, I can't wait till I move out of here. Um, but how did you feel about some of her kit though? 'Cause I want to kind of get into some of her abilities that are different. Because obviously the lasso of truth is not the lasso of truth. It is I forgot the title of it. It's called what was it called? Damn, I
It's
blanked on
not
it.
like the lasso of pain, but that's essentially like what it is. But
It's got
I
a
think
one
that
word
because
name.
Wonder Woman only ever like carries the lasso, and then after that she started carrying her short sword. Wow. And then
Yeah,
after that she kind of like starts carrying her shield. Her having the gut sword, I was like, absolutely yes. Her having like these magics, that are basically in these these magic orbs, her still being able to use magic to make her sword bigger, because she's like, I had the right idea but I just wasn't thinking big enough. So it's like her leaning into the magic, I think, was really great, because in just regular DC, y'all have her at one point as the leader of Justice League Dark, and she does not use magic that often. So it's like, why are you putting her in charge of the magical Justice League when she doesn't use magic like that? She just happens to be kind of a magical being, something that she doesn't lean to. And I think that's also something kind of like comparative with Storm. She happens to also be a magical being, but you wouldn't be able to just like put her as a leader of a magical group of people because she
right.
doesn't use it. So her leaning into the magic and that being part of her kit, her sword, Pegasus being part of her kit, I love literally all of that because it contributes to what she should have been doing as an Amazon anyway, because they practice magic.
Honestly, her whole kit is called the Nemesis lasso. That's what it was called. Jesus Christ, I was looking for it over here off the side like
Mm.
bad. But like her kit makes more sense. Like when you tell me this woman is an Amazon, where she is tall, beefy, strong, and she like is a bruiser, I'd imagine she'd have a big heavy weapon. I always thought the short sword and the short shield was like them trying to make her cute and like I guess cutesy for lack of a better term, and how they drew her.
Hmm.
And they try to make her more like
Like
what's
with
the word
the
I'm looking for?
outfit.
Yeah, like noble and like a literal like they try to make her like, not dainty per se, but like almost like a literal god. Like if you imagine how the gods look in like Hercules, where they're like shiny and like a toy. Like that's what I imagine them trying to make her look like. And this, they're like, nah, bro, she is a beefy woman, like a man, like Rhea Ripley from the like she's a big woman. So her having that massive sword made sense to me. The Nemesis lasso was an interesting look, and to your point, her utilizing magic and having such a knowledge of magic makes a lot more sense in the story. Um, Again, I really hope that this absolute universe blows up and it's something that they continue to use for a while, and there's still like we can get like our absolute version of Justice League Dark or shit like that, just because there's so much potential with the kids they've done for this stuff, and especially with Superman and Batman. Oh my god, like they've changed around the way they look and operate, like all around. Like I really am excited to see what they do.
I'm
But
really kind of hoping that it does a little bit better on the Absolute Batman. The art being inconsistent on his size is the
mhm.
part that's really throwing me off, because I'm just like, is he that big or not?
Yeah,
You are driving me insane.
well, I don't know. I feel like they're because even in real life, they're like people that like if they wear like a sweater or they're wearing like a certain type of clothing, you can't tell how yoked they are until they or like Billie Eilish, right? She wearing a certain type of clothing, you can't tell that she really built like she
Yeah,
built.
but except they have him in the same skin tight clothing outside of his bat suit. So it's like when they draw him in the bat suit, he's like this monstrous sized person. Like in the first issue, when he went up
Right.
against the person and he took the symbol off his hand, off his chest and made an axe.
Hmm.
Absolutely huge. He matched the person he was going up against. But then when he was going to talk to his mom, he's like 5 sizes smaller than that. And I'm like, what is happening with the art going on? And then I think the art doing the flashback, I guess, was throwing me off. I don't know. I
Hmm.
like the art consistency of the both of these though. Like Absolute Superman has kept the consistent art, and this has definitely kept the art consistent. And I think that's one of the things that keeps me
Hmm.
interested in her story is her artwork is phenomenal. And I love it.
I can agree there. In regards to the Batman stuff, I can. It's something that you mentioned. I can see a lot of the differentiation with it. How much of it is purposeful, I don't know, because I do feel like they tried to intentionally make like the art softer whenever they would do like a flashback to his childhood. Like I think the most recent one, or maybe issues. I don't know if it's the most recent one or the one before the most recent one, where he's like in a theater with Selena and all his friends watching the Mask of Zorro or the Mark of Zorro. Like they tried to make it
Yeah.
seem
I
like
mean, that
really
part, they've kept that part definitely consistent. It's the one when
right.
he was doing the first bat suit and
Mm,
he was at court. And that one was just that art was just drastically different
right, right, right.
than the rest of the issues. And then like, and I was just like, what is happening? It was just like such a stark, hard difference that was throwing me off. And I was like,
Mm,
art to me, I like consistent artwork because like Marvel's got this thing where they do it too, where they have a really good story the first couple issues and the artwork is phenomenal. And then they get into another issue and the art is so ugly and confusing. And then I don't care about the story because I don't know what I'm looking at. It's hard to tell who's talking. And I was just like, I don't like this. So I end up not liking that story. I like consistent art with the consistent story. So if you have both of those going on together, kind of like how Absolute Wonder Woman and how Storm are, both of their artwork is impeccable and it matches the story.
right.
So it makes it more fun to read.
I feel you on that. Um, Especially like in how like following it. Because I feel like sometimes, especially Marvel, I've noticed when I was like, because I've been reading a lot of Marvel stuff lately with like the Wolverine stuff, and I think I've read like like the Wolverine Revenge, the Helverine, and then the
Mm-hmm.
Laura Kinney stuff like back to back to back. They'll like try to get very generous, for lack of a better term, with like the big splash pages. Like they'll have a big splash page, but then still have like paragraphs of text on it. But then it's also like paneled at the same time still. Like you have like the big thing, but it's still paneled. And it's like you can read it if you're like really like, okay, I know it goes left to right. So like I don't it's tougher to figure out.
Yes.
Yeah. It, but to get into some of the comparison though, because I think there is something to discuss in regards to how both of these stories are approaching the characters. And we kind of mentioned it earlier in regards to like them being represented in all aspects from Wonder Woman and Storm. What do you feel like is something in? Because I do want to get into this in regards to like the perception of Wonder Woman and Storm and what people think they are. Because I've noticed a lot of that in. I did a video on the fan casting with Storm stuff and all the Cynthia Erivo. I'm probably killing her name, but yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
Cynthia Erivo.
Arivo and a lot of that stuff. And I've seen a lot of people like say what they think Storm is. And they're casting like, oh, this actor needs to be this, that, or the third, have this culture, speak this way, and be able to portray this emotion. And I feel like some people don't necessarily understand Storm, or maybe they just don't understand most versions. Because I do think people fall in love with a specific version they read or saw, and all of their versions going forward need to be like what they're familiar with. What do you feel like makes Storm great as a character?
As a character, I think the fact that she does and doesn't hang on to her past. So like she knows she grew up as a thief. Like when in Avengers when they went to go see the X-Men for dinner and
Mm,
just play baseball. That whole filler episode they had, she's talking to Idia and she's like, you know, I grew up in Egypt as a thief and then I was brought over here and raised to be the queen that I am, basically. And and all of the people, she takes lessons from all of the people that she's interacted with. So
Mm-hmm.
when she's interacted with Doom, when she's interacted with Hitty and Rogue, and her and Jean being so close. And it's like she's taken all of these lessons and she's grown as a person, and she's like leapt from her past into her present and her future so that she knows who she needs to be, not only for herself but for other people. And anything that she's done, like when she was married to Black Panther, and when she was almost like all the times that she's almost been killed, the time that she was turned into a vampire. And it's like she doesn't forget all of the things that have happened in her past, but she doesn't let her past hold her back either.
Right.
And I think a lot of people hold on to the part where she was a thief in Egypt. That can just literally, she treats that as an ad lib because it was something that happened once. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not a defining characteristic of hers. You don't need to be like, well, she was a thief growing up. Yes, when she was fucking homeless. I don't know what she wants from her. She's no longer that. She's been queen. She's been regent. She was queen again, queen of an entire planet of mutants. She's been a leader. She's been all of these things. And y'all keep trying to reduce her to she was a thief one time. So what? As long as whoever it is writing her, or whoever it is that's playing as her, or whoever it is reading her, realizes that she did she did these things in her past and she has grown so much as a character, and there's absolutely nothing that you would be able to take away from her, not even life, as we can
Right.
see.
I feel like even to kind of further some of that stuff with her and me, I've noticed before anything else, she has been around and amongst so many different cultures and have helped build so many different cultures. Because I've seen a couple people discuss like, well, she is an African from Africa and an immigrant to Harlem, New York, and she has to embody all these things. And I'm like, okay, do you want her to like fucking say, I don't know, like wear a bubble coat and eat a chopped cheese? Like I don't understand like how you want her to,
I don't understand what you're bringing that up for.
because when you see Storm in any asset, any facet, she is very much one of those people that like she acts like a well-traveled person, where she can embrace a culture while also not letting that culture just be like the stamp on who she is. Like her being the queen of Wakanda, an African nation, we're far removed from her being that queen now. And although she acknowledges it and it's a part of her past and who she is, she doesn't let that be like the only identifier of her life. And even a lot of the things she does to help people or communicate going forward, that isn't just like the thing that holds her down. And I think that's the thing that gets misconstrued with her and a lot of characters is there are some characters who their cultural background is very much so indicative of like who they are as a person. Like T'Challa would probably be the best example because Wakanda and the values they hold really dictates like how he begins, how he grows, and the lessons he learns. Storm and I think a lot of other characters, like they have a cultural background that obviously, plays into what they look like, the kind of clothes they wear, because she does wear a lot of African garbs and clothing, and how they do their hair or whatever it may be. That to me is not dictate how she perceives the world so far. Like it seems like she's understanding that things are different and that I need to adapt to speak to each person, and I can't let who I am culturally or my background dictate that. If that makes any sense, I may be rambling here, but like she,
That makes sense.
I don't know. I get annoyed with that, where people want characters to just be a poster of where they're from. Like, okay, like Kyle Rayner's like half Mexican. Okay, cool. Do you want Kyle Rayner to walk around like what was
In a
there?
fucking sombrero?
There was because DC did this stupid shit. I saw it on oh my god, Blur Without Fears Blur Cave episode. Shout out to Ernie, where they were talking about how and they showed it on screen. There is a comic cover they did for Hispanic Heritage Month where they changed the initial art with Kyle to him like holding a lantern and having like a construct of like the Mexican American flag, but the nigga was holding a bag of tamales, like a grocery bag that said
Yeah,
tamales
I
on it.
remember that. Yeah, I
I
remember
was
that.
like, is this what y'all really want? Y'all, because he's half Mexican, you want him just to wear him being Mexican everywhere he goes? And it's something where I've talked about represent, and again, I'm going to speak about this in the fan casting video. It's probably going to come out this next week. I'm a big proponent of representation in media and you seeing yourself and identifying with characters. But I feel like that representation should be the standard. Like somebody being black and African or black and Spanish should not be like, oh my God, you saw this major thing, this major event. It should just be a normal thing. Like her being African or her being from Harlem to be something that's subtle that comes up in conversation. It shouldn't dictate how she, to an extent, it should dictate how she interacts with the world. If you're like something like, if you're a black person, you're dealing with prejudice, which even then you could argue with Storm, like she's a mutant before being black in this world, so she's going to involve herself with prejudice differently. Like even like I think for example in issue 2 or 3 where she's speaking with the doctor at the mutant hospital and he's like refusing to treat her, she doesn't immediately think, oh, you don't want to treat me because I'm black. No, she doesn't want to treat her because I'm a mutant. Like she's going to interact with the world differently because her being a mutant at her core is going to go first before anything else. So obviously, like, yes, keep the representation in regards to her being African and her being a black woman, because those things should play a part to some extent in some of the subtle writing. But like, it should not be this big thing that is a part of the main story. Like, representation in your culture should be a standard thing that you just happen to be, in my opinion. But again, that's just me, maybe, because in the way I've seen people talk about this fan casting stuff with her and how she should show up in different parts of media, they want her culture to be like this thing that is worn on her face first and foremost. And I'm just like, I don't think that's the best way to tell that story and her as a character.
And even to that, when the doctor was refusing to treat her, it wasn't even just that she was mutant; it was that she was an X-Men.
Right.
And it's like the X-Men also get like, even though the X-Men are mutants, they get like weird ass treatment from other people, including other mutants. So it's just like she's got so many whammies that come against her anyway, before anybody says anything about her being black. So and I've seen like the whole conversation where they're talking about who they think should be her and how they were going after Cynthia Erivo for absolutely no reason, even though she was like, that's a dream role for me. One of the things that I've always seen when it came to casting Storm was that they hated Halle Berry being Storm so much, because not only is Halle Berry not 100% black, but she was light skinned.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, Storm's not light skinned. I'm like, you are correct. She's not. And Halle Berry just just doing an awful job anyway. Just didn't really have a Storm look to me, and it looks like they got her way from Party City. So I was just like, I don't know. I've never really liked her as Storm, and I really wish that if they are going to do it, that they choose somebody who is of the correct complexion. However, when y'all are talking about of the correct complexion, everybody has their what is the correct complexion.
Right.
And it's like Cynthia would be on probably the darkest end, along with they had a couple people who are about the same skin tone as
I think people say
Cynthia.
like Lupita Nyong'o and like they want like her shade, yeah.
And then like her, and then they have kind of your complexion and then a tiny bit darker. And I'm like, y'all can't even agree on how dark she can or should be, because in the comic books, they are never consistent with her skin color. It's only that she is brown. She ain't never been light, but she has been brown. And then in the cartoon, she's also very chocolate. So I'm just like, at this point, it comes down to who can act. Because y'all sitting here, you're never going to agree on the complexion of a character that is supposed to be black, because you can't, because even with the thing with Aaron Pierre being Green Lantern has been shown to be light skinned in several different comics, and that's just on the account of the printer. not even that they did it on purpose, but you can't reprint the book and have him darker now. But then you go over and he's darker somewhere else. That whole situation y'all had with Starfire. Well, Starfire is black. She should have been orange. Who cares? She's an alien. Doesn't matter. But if you can't agree on how dark or how light she's supposed to be, at this point, it just comes down to which one of these women can act. I'm going to go with the one who knows how to act.
And that's my thing. Because I talked about it in the chat we were in, and we're like, I had my feelings on John Stewart Green Lantern. Obviously, I have a preference and a bias of like the Justice League Unlimited series and like the bald headed, goateed version of him and all that stuff. And so like because that was what I was introduced to and what I loved, that's what I see in my head when you say John Stewart, not the crew cut. Or maybe if we're going into like some other instances of him, I always see like a dark skinned dude. So when Aaron Pierre got casted, I was like, okay, I'm not familiar with bro, but I have full confidence in his ability to act from what I've heard from other people. And then when I watched Rebel Ridge, I believe in his ability to act. And that's my thing. I'd rather him being a well-acted character than worry about his skin complexion being 100% perfect. Because even like with Storm Beyond the skin complexion, she's tall as fuck. Like she's damn near like Wonder Woman height. So I'm like, you have to find an actor who is the exact shade and complexion that everybody will agree on, which is not going to happen. You have to find a woman that is really tall at that point, or at least at a certain point, you can use stuff like camera tricks, maybe like give her some insoles in her shoes that make her taller, whatever it may be. But then you have to find an acting ability, and I think people always put like the acting chops like second or third in that list of things. I'm like, no, that should be number one. Can this person act?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it comes to the cultural stuff, because I've seen people like, well, it has to be a Nigerian or African actor. People almost had an entire conniption, and still to this day would have a conniption if they were to recast T'Challa. And Chadwick Boseman, at least to my knowledge, is not African in any means outside of his historic heritage like every other black person in America. We all give Angela Bassett her credit and rave about her acting and think she should have got the Oscar for what she did in Black Panther. She is not African by any means, as far as I am knowledgeable. So like this isn't a thing like y'all are okay with it because you see it now, but it's like it almost feels like this thing of like, okay, I want you to cast me. I think I saw somebody discuss that where it's like people are mad because they feel like it should be them. And they can live vicariously through this actor because this actor looks like them. And I think that's where you take the representation thing too far to where like somebody that looks like you, but not a one-to-one spring copy of you. Because again, we as black people are not a monolith, so we come in different shades and sizes and colors. You should, at least for me, in a perfect world, I should see somebody your complexion on the screen and still be like, oh, black person, I identify. Granted, again, it'd be a little disingenuous not to say like, okay, I want a darker skinned person because you yellow as hell. But like even if somebody that looked a little darker, like let's say like an Aldrich Hodge, cool. Him, I shouldn't have to like see my exact skin shade and complexion to feel represented. But I think that's a bad message. I think it's where you take things to the extreme, per se, in my opinion. But
no, I've understood a lot of people where a character is described, especially a book character. A character is described as a darker skinned woman, and they cast Zendaya. I completely understand where you're coming from because I like if you've gotten attached to the character in the book and like the description is very much like they describe her at every turn of the page that she is chocolate or like and they have all of these just like melanated related words at how dark the girl actually is, and then when you bring the character to the screen you have cast somebody who is like 2 shades darker than me. No, those things I can understand. But a lot of the times it's just like you're saying, acting should come first. If you can't act, you can't have the role.
You know what's funny?
It doesn't matter what shade you are.
Did you see? Have you read Children of Blood and Bone at all, or are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So did you hear the news around people getting mad because the writer that for one of the characters she envisioned was Zendaya? I think she said Zendaya.
No, it's
or who was it?
Yeah, I think so. The one who got cast or who she envisioned?
Who she envisioned initially, not who got casted.
Oh, I don't remember who she envisioned originally.
She said she envisioned like Zendaya for a specific character, and people like tripping out because Zendaya isn't darker skin. I'm like, bro, the creator is telling you who she envisioned. Go write your own shit if you don't like it at that point. Like the person that wrote this, like I get how
they
he
did
showed
the
up,
same
but
thing with Sandman. They did the same thing with Sandman when I think it was Desire got cast as a black woman. When a black woman was cast for Desire, and people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that!" And then Satan was a woman, and I was like, "That's not how the character was written." And then Neil Gaiman was like, "That's my character. I was there at the casting, and I picked them because they know how to act." Hello, what is happening? And I'm just like, sometimes I understand. Most times I do not. Um, do I understand where some dark skinned women are coming from when it comes to a character that's supposed to be dark skinned getting cast as light skinned? Absolutely, because I'm also tired of seeing that, especially if I know a character is supposed to be dark skinned, and I'm just like, why is that person there?
granted,
But then they start acting, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they're there.
because
But I still feel like somebody of a darker complexion probably could still act, but okay.
and I don't know, I know people watching, we've like gotten way off the beaten path of like where we started off. But this is a conversation I'm just passionate about. Because again, we've talked about the gatekeeping representation thing a million times over. And this is just stuff that it's been annoying the hell out of me because it's been something that I think it really all started from. Well, I can even say it started with the T'Challa recasting. It really, at least in my mind, the earliest it started was the conversation around the Miles casting, or maybe even before that was like the Static casting, where people always bringing Jaden Smith into the conversation or bringing in Caleb. I can't remember buddy's name. He's on Stranger Things, black kid, Caleb something. But it's always like, well,
McLaughlin, right?
Yeah, Caleb McLaughlin. It's always like, oh, he's not dark enough or he's not this enough. And again, the acting is subjective, obviously, because your definition of what you consider great acting is going to differ from mine to somebody else's. Sometimes there's a universal person because of the media perception or majority perception. But for the most part, we have an idea of what's good acting. But the fact that's not the first thing that should come into your mind is annoying to me. I feel like most of everything else you can substitute through the acting or special effects. Now, I'm not saying make him like I'm not saying put on blackface, but like height, like a tall character, cool. You can use camera angles and shit like that.
If they were to cast Cynthia at all, they would have to because Cynthia is the same height as me.
Is she that short?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Ariana Grande. Her and Ariana Grande are like because Ariana. I think her and Ariana are 5'1".
Damn, I knew Ariana was little. I didn't know Cynthia was that small.
Yeah,
she seemed taller than me from the stuff I've seen.
Because they wear heels all the time.
Right.
Especially Ariana put on a pair of heels, okay? But Cynthia was also wearing heels, and that's also like in Wicked, they are also wearing heels most of the time. But they are very short. So if they were to do it, if they wanted to lean into Storm's height, they would have to do all kinds of the camera tricks to make her seem tall because she's not.
Yeah, and me saying that, people that are watching this, I'm not in any way saying that I endorse Cynthia Erivo as Storm. I do think there are better choices, and most of those have to do with one, the acting, and two, the height thing. But first, once it's the acting, and I do think there are better choices. I think DeWanda Weiss, or is it DeWanda? Is this DeWanda? Isn't it? I think DeWanda Weiss. I'm probably killing her name, but she
the girl from Jurassic World.
Yes, DeWanda Weiss. I think she would be a great decision, or at least in my opinion, a great casting. The woman that is she was in Them, the first season of Mother.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember her name.
For sure, her. Yes. Yeah, I would go for her all day. Yes.
And granted, I'm biased. I'm a horror fan, so I'm gonna pick horror actors. And low key, like I'm starting to notice that, like I saw it with Jennifer Gardner. Not Jennifer Gardner. It's Julia Gardner. From The Wolfman, where like these actors will do like a horror movie role and like kill it. It's like a smaller horror movie and then get cast in a Marvel movie like right after. Because she's playing a Silver Surfer in like 4 or 5 months, not even 4 or 5 months, maybe like 3 months of that movie coming out, I think. I'm not sure.
It's in July.
So yeah, it's again, when it comes to this fan casting stuff, y'all, I've learned to be more of a casual with it and just enjoy it and give shit a chance first and foremost. Obviously you can have your favorite actors you would prefer for whatever the reason is, but maybe it's just I need to get I need to get off the internet for a little bit with some because the negativity around a lot of these conversations is fucking crazy. And usually a lot of it is from like grown ass adults that are acting like they're children. Like,
But you know, they do the
it's
same thing when
crazy.
it comes to like comic book accurate suits. And they're just like,
Oh my
oh my
god.
god, the picture of the thing is not on the right side of his Shut up. Oh my god. Shut up.
Bro, because
And it's just, I'm like, y'all are like the worst people.
the shit I've seen around that the Superman suit is annoying the hell out of me. They're like, well, it's too comic accurate. You see what Snyder did and Nolan did in making it realistic. I'm like, bro, he is going for, first and foremost, these are comic book characters. Like, you read Superman issues with his underwear on the outside and thought it was cool in the comic book. If he's going for a more comic booky style of a movie, everything we've seen so far makes sense. But the Guy Gardner haircut with the under the jaws on the outside and things are looking more similar to the versions we've seen. And more than likely, that stuff's going to change anyway by the end of the movie because movie stuff, movie magic, whatever the plot is. And so he'll probably get like a new suit at some point because it seems like this one's going to get beat the hell up. But I don't know. People just don't enjoy because you know what's crazy? If the movie performs well, the movie's good. People are going to swear up and down that they loved it from the very beginning.
Yep.
It's just that's what annoys me even more.
Yep.
People switch up on this shit
Every time. Or if it's bad, I told y'all so, and it's because if he had the elbow pad on the left side,
like,
you're not doing anything but pissing me off.
the Heath Ledger casting,
Don't nobody care.
RDJ is Iron Man, the Hemsworth Thor being like, it's always something with this shit. But to in an effort to somewhat spin this conversation into the original conversation I wanted to have in regards to comparing the two books with Storm and Wonder Woman, we spent a lot of time on Storm and what makes her an amazing character, what makes her great. I wanted to kind of ask you kind of again the same question in regards to Wonder Woman. Like, what do you think makes Wonder Woman a great character whenever you're reading her?
Like this Wonder Woman or Wonder Woman in general?
In general, because again, we talked about like this book is, in my opinion, taking all the best parts of her from different stories and putting it in one. Like, what about her, if at all, captured you as a reader?
First of all, Wonder Woman don't give a damn. She proved that when she beheaded Maxwell Lord on TV. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about Wonder Woman is the way that she embodies her heritage as an Amazon. And it leads into you learning more about Amazon. So through her, you get to learn more about other people. Um, but her as a character, she's always been probably the most fun. I think the thing that I've always liked about her is her fighting ability. Her stories have always been kind of semi-average, kind of just the only story that has really popped out to me is like this absolute Wonder Woman story, and then the current Wonder Woman story happening for DC All In. After they've killed Steve Trevor, and she has assembled her team, but she is at home minding her business.
Yeah, I gotta read that. I saw the new cover is badass. Like her, I'm calling this shit Wonder Woman Incorporated at this point because she's just getting like all the Wonder Woman characters.
You might as well because she's got Donna Troy, Yara Fleur, and Cassie, and then she also recruited Barbara Minerva. So Cheetah was also doing some damage too. Mm-hmm. And it's just very interesting in how they've chosen to, like, it's almost as if they've taken the personality that should have always been there, the personality of it's like a silent sniper type thing. Like, I know how to get you before you know how to get me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always appreciated, because some people bring that part of her character to life when they're writing her, and then some people kind of just leave it out. And I'm like, she is a strategist, she is a fighter, and they, even when they kind of depict her fighting in the comics, it never matches how animated, like how the animated shows get her. Because I think the animated movies and shows show her the best. I do not think that the comics do her much justice.
Yeah, because I feel like because it's a lot grittier in the animated series. Like, I'm literally just thinking about the Justice League, the animated series, where like all her fights are like gritty, like she's relentless. she's legit like screaming and giving away like any kind of like form of surprise she'd have. Like she is like getting down and dirty in a lot of those fights. And I feel like they try to make her a little bit too finesse in some of the comics, at least in the stuff that I've seen, where they're trying to like she's dodging. I'm like, in my opinion, Wonder Woman, yeah, you can dodge a little bit, but like she should be a parry demon. She should be like either blocking shit or parrying shit, like on some Spartan level warfare. All that dodging and cutesy Batman shit, like no, she can take a punch. Like her battles and her fights should be gritty.
The best fight that I've seen animated was between her and Superwoman from the Crime Syndicate when they were going up against the Crime Syndicate. I can't remember what Justice League movie that is. Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah.
Or Crisis on Two Earths, whichever one that is. I think it's Crisis on Two Earths. And they're going up against the Crime Syndicate. When I say every time Superwoman stepped on screen and Wonder Woman wasn't on screen, Superwoman was, of course, giving the Justice League the business. When it came to Wonder Woman, she was awfully quiet, and Wonder Woman was putting wrestling moves on that lady and using her rope using her lasso the way that, like, whenever she uses her lasso in the comics, like, she does, choke a few people, knock a few people out, but mainly she's using it to get an answer because it's the lasso of truth. Absolutely not. The truth is I'm about to beat your ass. And that's what she uses it for in the movies because she is so good with it. I'm like, that is how you're supposed to be fucking using that. And they never do it in the comic books. And I'm like, bro, please, I'm begging you. Please just like watch one of the animated movies and then just take what you see and put it in this comic book. Because the way that she be putting it on all of them, and y'all just be like, dodge, punch to the stomach. I'm like, I hate y'all.
Because I feel like you see it a little bit in the live action movies, or at least the first one. I ain't on 84. We're not gonna speak on that.
The second one was not.
Yeah. That first one, like she's in like World War II, and like she's literally in the trenches, like her being gritty and her again. This feels like Wonder Woman. And I think that's the thing that, in my opinion, that makes her great is like, and it's part of what I appreciate about a lot of women in comics is the aspect of they're still beautiful, they're still elegant, they still keep their stature about them, but they're fucking war ready. Like I love the fact that this Wonder Woman is like you can still tell she's very beautiful, and because we see her from Steve's perspective in a couple of different shots and images of how Steve perceives her. Mm-hmm. But she's still like about that action, a big, massive hunk of woman. And I don't know, maybe it's something I'm seeing as I'm getting older and like I'm maturing a little bit more, and my perception of what women are changing some. But it's something that I've appreciated more because the older I get, the more of the cutesy versions of Wonder Woman and some again, and those kind of characters have a place, obviously, like the cutesy, small, dainty characters, but like. When you're telling me she's a warrior, nah, bro. Even if she's small, she gotta be about that action. And that's something that I love about her, Storm. Like, especially with Storm, with the fact that like she didn't have her abilities, but she was still about that action with Doom. And like this is Doctor Doom in his dining room, and you're still like, I'm throwing hidden blades and shit, even though I don't have my powers. Like I'm about that action still. And it's something that I've all in all I've appreciated. Which is the main reason why I wanted to kind of talk with you about it, just for the factor of I wanted to have a woman's perspective on this and how you perceive woman representation in media and like how women are depicted in a lot of this stuff.
It depends on who's writing. I think that there are some who get the recognition that they deserve for sure. But then there are others, and I'm not even gonna lie, some people are like, oh, I prefer a woman writer because a woman can write a woman. That sometimes that is absolutely not the case because then you're asking, have you ever met other women before? Because like the conversations that they're having, it's like you would never have these conversations with other women in like an actual setting. So it always just kind of depends on who the writer is and how they've interacted with other women. Because, like, say you're a mean girl and you're not a girl's girl, and that's how you write your character. It's like if somebody were to write Storm, like a woman were to write Storm from a mean girl perspective, I would be so pissed because I'm just like, Storm's not mean. And like she's tough on some people because that's what they need to hear. But at the end of the day, she's still a girl's girl. Like, she's still gonna help people like Jean. She's still gonna help people like Wanda. She's still gonna help people like Idia. Like Idia, she calls Idia her little sister. So it's like she still has that helpful mothering nature, and it seems like if you don't write it from that perspective, then you're just, who are you? So I like when women get good representation. Like when their writing is good, when their character development is obvious. If they started out being this mean girl before and you've shown them what they've been missing in terms of like relationships with other people, not even just men. Some representation is surrounded or is dependent on other men. I don't like that because
Yeah.
why does your character have to depend on other men? Like, why does your personality have to depend on the men that you are on? So some of the representation is good, and then some of it definitely needs work. I think bringing in Kill All Immortals. Frey is the sister in the group of siblings. So she has three brothers and then her dad. She is the only female there. Yet, she does not enjoy the killing that they enjoy doing. She loves helping, she's doing charities, and she's just the complete opposite of her entire family. And even when they were getting into those fights, because they can't die right now. So she's fighting her brothers and killing them, even though she knows they're going to come back to life. She's fighting and killing them for what she really believes in, because she's like, y'all are not about to continue to be a cancer on this earth. Y'all are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a woman is writing her. I think a man is writing her, but he's definitely spent time around stronger women, and he's done his research on Freya, who is part of like the Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows how to put that in there. She is absolutely wonderful representation. And then you have another character like the chick in Metamorpho, whose name I don't know. She's dumb, and she like is dumb along with Metamorpho being dumb, and it's like she can't think for herself. And I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? Why?
Where I notice it the most, and due to your point, I think there's a point to look at in regards to when, and because the thing with men as well, where like women that are writing these characters, sometimes they will, instead of taking on personal experience from interacting with other women, they'll take on what tropes are in regards to how women interact with the world, and a lot of that's shown like through their dialogues with men, where like it'll either be like the extreme of the super like in when I say this, people may look at it a certain way, but like the super like feminist way to write them, to where it's like, I'm denouncing everything you are all about, like men are as a whole, and how everything about this character is evil, and they just like look at
Yep.
the men they interact with in a very aggressive manner. Or there
Mm-hmm.
is the other side of things, to the other extreme, where it's like, to your point, this character is really subservient to men. They're all based around like their only development is based on how their men proceed in the story. And I think the perfect way in between is like the Wonder Woman and the Storm. And Wonder Woman, exactly, to me, it's like the aspect of, and prime example being whenever she encounters the general in the second or third issue. And the
The second one.
general's like, you're gonna do this, that, or the third. We need you here, here, and here. And she's like, don't get things twisted. I am here to save you, but I am not your weapon. Like, this is not how this is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's very much like, there's a blend of like compassion there, while also still being true to herself. And she's not interacting with these men in an antagonistic way, but she's still standing firm on who she is as an individual, and what she, and her morals and ethics, and she's there. And I think that's like the perfect way to write these characters, that sometimes can be lost, again, from both sides, men and women writing. But I do find it interesting when, to your point, like when women are writing them and they still make this mistake. Because men, I get, because if you're a man and you're not around women, I expect you not to be around that many women unless you're a little bit older or you were raised around them. Women in writing like that is kind of wild. Because I just
Yeah,
assume women are
it
around other
bothers me
women.
a lot when they do that. Because it's almost like, so it's like you have like people that you click up with, and it's like you guys may have that conversation, but that conversation doesn't occur outside of your group. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like you don't interact well with people outside of your group because you don't share the same ideals. So your
Mm-hmm.
conversation would essentially just devolve into an argument. And then it's like you just like the super feminist ones. They, while they are trying have everything not be about men, they end up making it about men. So then everything ends up surrounding men, and then it's like a tilted conversation. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have to like you can the way that like to your point with her talking to the general. She talks to the general in that way, but she has a different kind of tone when she's talking to Trevor because Trevor knows how to talk to her like she's a fucking person
Mm-hmm.
versus talking to her like she's just this random woman with power that came in that you're going to just use. No. And I also enjoyed using her height to her advantage there when she looked down on him and was like,
Mm-hmm.
relax. Are you done with your yelling? Okay, cool. Because if you are, we can continue this conversation. Um, and I very much enjoy that's one of the things I enjoy about them incorporating her height because they don't incorporate her height in the comics like that because she's still standing at
Next
the
to
same height with
Superman.
Superman and Batman. And
Right.
I'm like, I don't think that they are the same height at all. I'm 100% sure she is much taller than them. And
Mm-hmm.
just looking, I think she's almost like 7 feet tall. So I'm just like, she is much taller than they are, and you always have her standing on either equal or lower ground than the two men around her. And that's one of the things of like her writing that I don't like. When they have Storm standing around people, Storm is definitely taller than some of the people that she's talking to. And they make that very obvious because she's like 6 feet tall. And I'm like, and y'all gonna treat her like she's 6 feet tall.
I think that's why I love the romance with her and Batman in the animated series so much. Because it's that whole thing of like he's Batman, obviously, and has a lot of that cachet. But it's very simple. Like I think the best way to describe it is like the infamous scene of like them on that rooftop during a stakeout, and she's like giving down. Like, he's trying to give like all the reasons why they shouldn't be together, and he's like, "Well, people will
Mm-hmm.
get to her through me." She's like, "Nigga, do you not know who the fuck I am? So, I can take care of myself." But that's very
Right.
apparent. Even like when they're dancing and interacting, like to your point, they're really showcasing that she is taller than him. Like there'll be like moments where he'll take the lead, like with them dancing or whatever it may be, but like she's still very much so towering over him. But that isn't a thing that he's afraid of, or he's not intimidated by that in any way, form, or
Mm-hmm.
fashion. Again, I love that the most because it gives you a chance to write these characters a lot more in regards to how they interact with the world. Because if you're always towering over somebody, like again, as a larger man myself, when you're bigger than other people, if they are not familiar with you or you don't speak a certain or speak at all to them, they can be a little standoffish because are afraid to a certain extent of like what you're capable of doing. So you have to interact with the world in a different way. You have to move a little bit more kind. I feel like you have to be a little bit more nurturing, but same time, I'm still big as fuck. So please don't try me.
Right.
It's that duality there, and I love I love that we're getting that with this Wonder Woman, um, especially in like the romance with her and Trevor. I feel like that was something that was done very well, where they are infatuated with one another, but it was more so of a curiosity more than anything
Curiosity.
else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so they like each other, but even then, like she isn't so enthralled with him that like she's going is interrupting what she has to do. Like she acknowledges like their relationship, but she's like, nigga, I'm about this action. I gotta get this shit done. This tetracide has to go first and foremost, and like I have a
Yeah,
duty
and
to do.
I think that's also one of the things that I disliked about her character's writing originally is that Steve Trevor is like her whole life. And I'm like, okay.
But I
And
hate
he's
Wonder Woman
like
'84 so
it's
much.
determined. Yes, and I'm just like even right now, so after DC, after Absolute Power, Trevor ended up getting shot and killed, and he is down in hell. She goes to visit,
Mm.
and this whole revenge plot that she's got going on has everything to do with the people who murdered him. And I completely and totally understand that because it was so random, and then they still showed like it's still showing her feminine side because now she has her daughter and everything like that. So it's like it's still showing like the feminine, like motherly side of her, but then it has the other three plus Cheetah acting out what she really wants to do, but she can't do it. And I'm like, y'all are letting Trevor do that thing again where
He's dictating the
like
entire story.
she just went out with her daughter and broke apart this gigantic boulder so that she could take it back and make a sculpture out of him. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I understand you're upset and I get it. And when you destroyed him the first time, I feel like that should have been it. But you're still not done. And this is still about Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hey man.
Either bring him back or don't. I don't know.
At this point. But yeah, man. Because I think we're like over an hour now because it was like an hour 15 in. So I don't want to hold you all night. Yeah. Oh shit, it's probably still earlier for you over there. It's getting late over here.
It's only 6:21, but I am very hungry. So.
All right. So everybody watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in again. If you guys want to see more of this stuff, let me know in the comment section below. Like I said before in the first part of this video, because there are two parts because my computer hates me. I will be weekly trying to cover the stuff that is going on in the comics. And I'm reading a lot more comics, at least week to week. I'm trying to read any book that I have an interest in. And if I enjoy it, I'll read the rest of the run. If not, I kind of leave it alone. Next week, I will be trying to have more of a discussion on the Wolverine Revenge thing that's going on right now. Because I've read the first couple issues of that and I thought it was interesting, but I thought it was done. Kaori let me know that it was still going on. So I'm curious to see like how they're gonna. I'm curious to see how they're gonna drag this out. So I'm read a lot of Marvel stuff, but I'm also going to make an effort to read Kill All Immortals, so we can talk about that because you talked about it a lot, and I'm interested in reading this, especially with my newfound love for Norse mythology, playing like God of War. I really want to. I'm interested, so we'll try to talk about that next week.
They're pulling a lot of mythology actually, because at the end of this issue, they bring in Genghis Khan.
Oh God. Oh God.
It's like, oh my God.
Okay. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff reading. If you guys have anything that you guys want us to cover specifically, let me know in the comment section below in regards to videos on the channel you can be checking out or look forward to. Today, my playthrough of Amenti dropped, and my body left my soul 15 times playing that game. So you guys can see that there, and you can look forward to a bigger project, hopefully within like the next couple weeks here with me and Dr. Knight, where we're going to be utilizing her witch expertise to kind of look at and review some witches in media, and kind of break some of that stuff down and then just review it from a regular cinematic standpoint, I guess, on how good it is as a movie or a show. So a lot of stuff you guys can expect from me on the channel. And again, if you guys want to see more of Dr. Knight that is not on this channel, please look at the description below and click on the hyperlink to her channel and find her and all 17,000 of her channels and subscribe to them all, please.
Oh my God.
And look out for the stuff that
Not
she
even
has
that
coming
many.
out. But again, this has been. Oh, is there anything else that you want to plug? Because I know I plugged your channel, but is there anything else you're working on you want people to know about?
Oh, my podcast did go. The Doctor's Office is on like Apple, Spotify, all that jazz. The other ones, haven't dropped an episode yet, mainly because we just recorded one today for Nerd on the Street podcast, but my Kaori's Corner podcast is going to just cover books, like novels and things like that. And I'm not done with this book yet. I'm almost done. It's a rough read. Not that it's bad, but it has a trigger warning in the very beginning of the book, and it is hitting all of mine. So it's taking me a minute. It's taking me a minute. I'm almost done though. That's the one I was reading for 3 hours last night. I had to take a break after a while.
3 hours is insane.
Hey, look, I like to read. Okay.
Hey, I ain't shitting on you for it. I need to read more. I need to pick another book because the last thing I really sat down and read was Court of Thorn and Roses, and I was so mad that I read that bullshit when I finished it.
I told you to read the Twisted Disney series. The Twisted Disney series is definitely one of the best series of books I've read. The best one out of it is the Beauty and the Beast one, as old as time.
Okay.
Murder,
Well,
betrayal, lies.
I'm gonna try to get to it, bro. At this point, I've committed so much to reading so many different comics and then recording content, and now I'm reacting to more anime now too. I'm like, I'm watching and reading so much shit right now for this channel. I'm locked in. I gotta find time to live and eat and cuddle my dog.
Well, I told you. You've seen my to-do list. I allot the time every day in between something so that I can sit and read. And I'm currently like, because the dog likes to watch Magic School Bus. She also likes to listen to the Bailey School Kids, listen to me read Bailey School Kids and Junie B. Jones to her. So I read those books to her before she goes to sleep. She likes them so much.
I would have more questions about how you knew that was a thing at some point with her, but again, it's late. I'll probably text you about it at some point because how the fuck did you realize that? But anyway, again, you guys have been watching the Captain's Lounge. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, let me know in the comment section below. And again, please subscribe to the channel, like the video so that videos like these can get promoted to more people that may be of interest of them. So, it's free to support, free to like. That way, if you guys don't have to worry, you don't have to donate, or you don't have to donate at all. You guys being here for just a second is enough for me. But again, this has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo on the Captain's Lounge, and I will see you guys. Peace. Click the wrong shit. Oh, no. Okay, cool.